You're listening to Nothing Small About Business, where big thinking meets real world action. Ready to level up? Let's get into it.
Today's guest is a nurse turned entrepreneur and CEO who has built multi-million dollar businesses through clarity, consistency, and purpose. She helps women lead confidently, make smart money decisions, and build sustainable success rooted in service. Rhea Stoddart, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Yes, me too. I feel like this is a conversation that is really going to resonate with my listeners. So, if I understand correctly, you were a nurse turned entrepreneur, and now you have an agency where you represent healthcare workers. Is that correct?
That is correct. I used to work downtown Toronto. I noticed they use agency nurses, and I would ask these nurses, oh, why would you not want to be staff? Because that's all I knew. You would graduate, you get a staff job. And they just told me of all the perks, the autonomy to make your own schedule. Um, Obviously, there's a financial perk to it as well. And as soon as I got my 1 year experience as an ER nurse, I went off and I was in the world of agency for many years. Then came COVID, where, as you know, we're past it now, but in the moment, a lot of nurses were afraid. They didn't know what to expect. In the news, you'd hear nurses were not going home. They were sleeping in their cars or going to hotel rooms and really quarantined from their families. And the world of agency, it was very much, there was no change. And if you had to go off sick, if you caught COVID, there's no financial substitution or the government. Here you would have got sick pay or whatever it may be. But because you're doing freelance agency, you are not entitled to that. So as the agency nurses, it was a very small niche at that time. We wanted to advocate for ourselves. We said, let's rally the agencies, let's get better terms in working during COVID. And we know the government was being supportive. So in Canada, our healthcare system is backed by government funded. So we were like, oh, this is a no brainer. They need nurses. It's a health crisis. They're going to meet us halfway at least. It was a small group of us, I would say less than 100 agency nurses in the Toronto area. And we rallied the agencies just to say, these are our, three top priorities. Where can you meet us? And they actually shut us down. They actually came together and they said, nope, we're not.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And from that, the group grew. So a lot of people who are like, these nurses started this WhatsApp group and it grew to over 1,000 nurses. It was a lot. And
Wow,
yeah,
that's so cool.
yeah, in the background, my husband was just like, we have the resources. And if you're not getting what you want from these agencies, then you do it on your own. So my husband and I were the ones that launched our agency in 2021. And we were fortunate because I was genuinely trying to help the nurses, right? And from that grew this big resource of nurses that were ready to work for us at a drop of a dime, right? They knew that we were going to give them better conditions, better pay, and we understood what they were going through in such a scary time. And we launched, and it was just because of the need in healthcare at that time, we grew at such a rapid pace. And then fast forward now, we have contracts all over Canada. So that is it in a
Wow, that's
nutshell.
amazing. Wow. And
Yeah.
what is so cool is that because you had that experience being one of the nurses,
hmm
you could take all of that knowledge and really understand the needs of what these healthcare workers deserve.
Exactly,
Eh,
exactly. And we knew what they wanted, right? It was just, do you hear us? Do we say we just want a little bit more financial compensation and just a little bit more safety and security in the agency world? And we were able to deliver when competitors at that time didn't want to budge.
That is
Really?
such a great opportunity where you saw such a need. And then
Yes.
because everybody could trust you that you were going to have their back and provide the best support,
Mhm.
I'm sure they were like, sign me up. When can I join?
Yes,
Wow. So you
exactly.
go home and your husband's like, let's start our own agency.
Yeah, he's like,
What does that process look like? What's day one look like?
Oh my gosh. You know what? He had incorporated the business, I want to say 7 months before, and he was waiting for me to catch up to his vision. Because I kept, dragging my feet and, oh, I don't, I was just making up barriers in my mind. And then finally, I remember I had finished a shift about an hour from where I lived. It was a night shift and it was snowing. And I was just like, on that drive, I was listening to Beyonce, huge Beyonce fan. And I was
Shout
listening
out Queen Bee.
I was listening to a song. It's called Already. And the basis of the song is like, what are you afraid of? Everything you're trying to achieve, just imagine that you have it already. So just do it. Now you just have to do it. And yeah, that night I made up my mind that, okay, I'm going to do it. We went home. We had already had a few things in place, like the policies and procedures and the fundamental and the foundation. And I did, in between work and agency, worked in management in two different hospitals in Toronto area within like a 3-year span. So I kind of had the gist of the administrative side of it. And so, yeah, that night I was like, let's do it. We built the website. I fixate when I'm in my zone. And so once my mind switched, it was on. There was nights I wasn't sleeping and
Game on. Let's go.
yeah, it's just like, okay, we're going to do it and I'm going to give it my 100%, right? And within the first week, we got major contracts. And it was funny. I was telling this story to someone the other day. I remember within the first 2 weeks, I got a random call on a Saturday and I can't say his name, but he's like, hey, it's so and so. And I'm like, oh, who is this? Like, it was such a casual conversation. So, oh, I'm the CEO of da 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 da, like a big long-term care group. And he's like, oh, I heard you got nurses. Let's test you. Send me 20. And then that was it. And we were
Were you
off.
like, oh my God, okay, let's go.
That's what it
So,
was. And
did you find that once you started, the nurses found you, or how are you finding the people that you're representing in this agency?
so it was easy because, again, because I was an agency nurse and I had the straight connection with the WhatsApp group prior to this. So anytime I had something come up, if one facility said we need 20 nurses, 24 hours, the good thing is I knew them, almost all of them personally. And I would just post it there like, hey, send me all your credentials, da 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 da. I made sure I verified it. And I was able to turn it around really quickly and get them going. So I, something that started as a passion project was well, I wanted to stand up for the nurses and fight for them at the time. And I didn't know it would grow into this. And that's what life is.
Yeah.
Sometimes you go one way, and to be honest, when I had met with some of these agency, a few of them did blacklist me. So I wasn't able to pick up shifts anymore. And I was so worried. And I was telling my husband, oh my gosh, where am I going to get money from? It's such good money and the income, not knowing that the universe had such a bigger plan, and my, in a sense, I would say bravery to stand up and say, hey, we deserve this. It was repaid back tenfold. I didn't see it coming, but it was one of the kickbacks.
That's awesome because it's
Yes,
like you probably get so worried of what am I doing? Am I making the right decision? But
exactly.
clearly, now looking back, you're like, it all makes sense. All the
Yeah,
pieces were coming together the whole time.
exactly.
You had the context, you had the knowledge, and then it
Exactly.
all comes together in this beautiful piece that you're like, oh, this makes sense on why this is happening the way it is.
Exactly. And sometimes it's just trusted. And I realize that in business, as you know, like there's so many unknowns and there's so many situations that could prop up, but you just have to trust the process. And I'm all about mindset and making sure when you're having the barriers, the challenges, whatever it is, that you're building up yourself constantly to say, hey, I'm going to get through this. I know this is for a reason and something bigger and better is coming around the corner.
Yeah, so that's something that I want to talk to you about because
Yes.
the mentality when you're in nursing, you're very compassionate and the medical side of things
Yes.
and your
Yeah.
job is a little more straightforward of exactly what you need to do.
Hmm.
Jumping into entrepreneurship is a completely different animal.
Yes,
So,
it is.
how did you find that transition going from nurse to entrepreneur?
I was an ER nurse, ER ICU nurse. So, and those are very high pressured area. And I tell everyone all the time, I was it was almost like I was trained up to then jump into entrepreneurship because there's so many times when, yes, there you need so much compassion in nursing, but in the ER, you're having people who are critically ill, right? Someone that comes in cardiac arrest, um, and then the pressures of having the families there, worried about their family members. So in that moment, you have to kind of keep it together, know how to delegate, but also carry out the task to help save someone's life, right? And
Hmm.
so I compare it to entrepreneurship in a sense that it's such a high pressure position to be in. Everyone says it, it's lonely, the lonely entrepreneur, because you are dealing with so much. You're dealing with cash flow issue. You're dealing with HR issues. Um, so much that you have, so much competing priorities. And to be honest, you have to know how to stay grounded, keep your cool, and stay level headed so you can push forward for yourself and your organization.
Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it with,
Yeah.
that high pressure, making quick decisions and
Hmm.
being just know that your decision in that moment, you have to stick with it and
Yes.
that's going to be the right one. And wow, that's an interesting high pressure, in a very different sense
Yeah.
than, some of
But
the things with entrepreneurship, you're like, oh, no problem. I can handle that. You should see what I did back in the ER.
the coping mechanism and just the training just to remain calm, um, it carried over, right? And I know a lot of people always say, Rhea, how come you're so calm? We found out like, this big, or you'll have a huge order request to fill, and you're like, it's the end of the day and everyone's panicking. And I'm like, no, guys, we can do it. Let's just prioritize what's the easiest to fill, what's the hardest, and then let's split it up. And so those skills are transferable.
So as your agency has grown, what are some of the processes that you've had to implement as you've been growing this agency?
Oh my gosh. So much trial by fire. And I would say the one thing I am grateful for, I'll get into it. Like right now, we're in a bit of a retraction, like a slowdown period within our company. But oh, Sarah, so much. We basically imagine my husband and I, we started at our kitchen table and we grew and grew and expanded within 3 years to having about 40 full-time employees, right? And so with that,
Wow.
yeah, with that, I learned so much because I used to depend on, I'm going to be honest, like I think one way and I know it's in my mind and I'm like, this is the process. And I'll just say it once, like, hey guys, do this. And then I'll come back the next day and I'm like, why aren't we doing this? And so I realized that you have to really set into place systems. And it's funny, I'll pull back to nursing. When you're in the hospital, we have like medical records, right? Where it will remind you this medication is due at this time. Do this follow up at this time, do that. And so similar to that, I took that into into the practice of our organization where I built systems that it's okay, automations. We need to send out the flight details to the nurses time, do the last double check 2 weeks out of deployment to an assignment. And so I was lucky because I think everything fell into place. I met people who helped me build these systems as well. So we built a lot of automated systems that I use and a lot of our staff use and rely on to make sure we follow through with our processes.
Right, because that's a lot of people that you're managing,
Hmm.
and you wanna make sure that every person is getting that quality experience, and that's, like,
Yes,
that's something really hard to accomplish
it
the
is.
more that you grow.
Yes. And honestly, it wasn't perfect, but I always say that you learn in the times when you have challenges or maybe negative feedback. Those are the teachable moments for us as an organization, right? So if we had a situation where maybe we forgot to send a departure flight to a nurse, or maybe the nurse complained to say, hey, I felt really disconnected from the agency. No one checked on me while I was on assignment. But we always use that feedback. How do we grow? How could we change our systems? Are we using the right software, the right system? And so we always make sure, even in the moments where we know, okay, we're not standing up to the standard of quality that we expect, we always make sure we use those feedback to rise to the occasion. So that's a huge part as well. There's no perfection. Even this time, like currently in our agency, any feedback we get, we try to say, where's this coming from? What's the root cause of this? And how can we fix it?
That's huge. 'Cause
Yeah,
that's, like you said, those are the biggest teachable moments and when
yeah,
you're gonna grow as a company if you're listening to the
exactly.
feedback they're giving you. Okay, so
Exactly.
you mentioned that there has been a slowdown. Is that in, like, industry-wide? Are you seeing changes in the healthcare industry? Is it
Um,
traveling specific?
yeah, I think it's changes in the healthcare system. So in Canada, it is government funding, right? And unfortunately, after COVID, there was a lot of backlash in the media about, the use of private agency and was it the best use of government funding. In addition to that, it was a lot of contracts were signed during emergency times when typically it's usually a competitive process to win a lot of these bids. And so there was just a lot of changes in how the contracts were awarded. Uh, there was times when I was one of three agencies to a client, and now they've brought on more. And competition is good because again, you learn
Mm,
and you want to say, how do I outthink and outsmart the competition? And also make sure we keep our standards high so the nurses want to continue to work for us. So it was just the allocation of contracts changed and there was more competition. I'm going to tell you after COVID, and proud to say I love competition. Some nurses that work for me I know have gone on to start their own agency because they saw they saw me do it and they're like, hey,
mhm.
we can do it too, and that's what life is about. And now yeah, there are competitors, but a lot more competitions and just changes in government regulation and changes how the contracts were awarded.
Got it. That's
Yeah.
such a good mindset to have because I mean, that's gonna happen, right? You have people that work for you, they learn from you, they see the success you're having, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Wait, I wanna try that. I wanna do that." So,
Listen,
if you take that negative,
no, it's not a
gosh, it's like
negative at all. And it's funny because even on my journey, a lot of people would call me and that I used to work side by side with on the units, right? And they would ask me like, "How do you do it?" And my husband would say the same thing, like they're trying to do what you're doing, and I'm like,
they're taking good notes right now, right?
but to me, it was more of you're only as good as someone that you beat, right? So it's great. I could definitely want to be the only one, but then our clients using us because there's no other option? Or if I'm amongst 100 competitors and we're still on top, that's saying like we truly are the best. We got it down locked. We're doing it the right way. We're the preferred agency. And I think for me, that's more rewarding than saying, oh, I hid information, I gatekeeped, you know what I mean? It was more of,
Mhm.
yeah, I can tell you, but let me see if you can do it as good as me. And then we could compete,
I
you know?
love that mindset. I
Yeah.
love that. That is such a great mindset.
Yeah.
So, watching your social media, you are a very positive person, and I love
Mhm.
the takes that you have on things. So, do you have like a morning routine, or what do you do to keep such a strong mindset?
Yeah. I just started to use an app called Todoist. Previous to this, I was using the Bullet app, but Todoist is almost like a daily checklist. It helps me keep completely organized. And the first thing I have on there is my morning routine. My morning routine was like an hour long. I'm trying to now, I've changed my children's school. So now we have a longer commute time. So I'm now down to 15 minutes because my mornings have shrunk. But
Okay.
I get up, hydrate, and it's meditation. There's a few phrases that say to myself. One of them is that, it's either, I'm so lucky. Now show me how lucky I am today. Or just telling myself, like, you know what, today's going to be a good day. Something great is going to happen. And just staying in that frame of thought. And I just believe that if you get up with positivity, with gratitude, and you say, I'm lucky, something good is going to happen, you're going to see it in the smallest things, in the
Mhm.
biggest things. And it's really just how you position your mind to see how things unfold on a daily basis. So if you get up and you're saying, oh, I'm so unlucky and, something bad's going to happen, you're going to find something bad that
Guess
happened to
what?
you. You're going to see it.
Absolutely.
So
Right,
it's,
especially as a business owner. There's
yes.
things that come at you all day long, and
Yeah.
so if you're looking at that as everything's a negative, like, well, then, yeah, that's it's
Yeah.
not gonna feel that great, but
Exactly, exactly. And even now, as I told you, we're in a retraction, and I'm looking at it as a time again for us, myself and my husband, to learn how do we, how can we reshape our business in this time? What can we do to fortify ourselves more and our position in the industry? So even though there's a retraction, there's such an unseen value to just learn and keep creating and making sure we have momentum and improvement within the daily process of the business as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 'cause
Mhm,
it probably gives you a moment to take a step back, zoom out a
mhm.
little bit,
Yeah,
and really look over every process and see like where can we improve, what can we do differently. And like with
exactly.
technology changing so much and AI being such a big part of everyone's business,
Yeah,
it's like how, looking at like, hey, where are we going to start implementing that? And I can relate a
exactly.
lot to you because my husband is an optometrist and we own an
Nice.
optometry practice in our town.
Nice.
And, he jokes, he's like, I'm an optometrist, but then like an accidental turned business owner. And so, and we're very much like the yin and the yang with our mindset around things regarding like he's much more of the safe, smart, small business owner, and I'm more of like the big ideas, shiny object entrepreneur type. And it takes, a little bit of that yin and yang when you work with your spouse to understand the benefits of both of those.
Sarah,
Is
that
that
is
something that you find with yourself?
yes, I was gonna say that is like my husband is very calm. Um, he takes his time. He like any decision, it's like he takes a great deal of thought into it. And where
Hmm.
I am like, no, we gotta move. We need speed. I love chaos. I was just talking to him about like I love chaos. I thrive in chaos, and he needs structure and calmness. And so oh, there was a funny statement he said to me the other day where he's like, everything could be going so well, and you're going to be like, I'm going to change the process. Let's spice it up.
Let's start another company.
Yeah, that's exactly who I am. So we're the same, Sarah.
Very
I'm like,
relatable. Yep. This sounds very familiar. Yep. I mean, I do
um,
think there's such a benefit to both because it takes somebody that's going to have those ideas and have that drive to continue to innovate. But you
yeah,
really do need that other person that's going to sit down and analyze it and really put the thought behind the
yeah.
strategy of implementing it.
And you know what? Like, I see ways, like, even in when our business started to take off, it was more conscious about cash flow where I'm a risk taker. So he was just like, oh, we're good. We can't deploy any more nurses. And then a client would call and be like, hey, we need 50 more nurses. And I'm like, send. And we'll
Perfect.
worry
What
about
time?
it later. And then he said, you have me stressing. But it
You keep
definitely,
him
it
on his
worked out.
toes.
Exactly. It worked out because we balanced each other out. So we meet somewhere in the middle most of the
I
time.
think
So
that's so important to have in a business. I really think it takes somebody filling each of those different roles to really make the train leave the station.
yes, yes,
Otherwise, the train's
absolutely.
flying off the rails or it's never left the station. I don't know, one or
Exactly,
the other.
exactly. It's surprising because there's other agencies who been around before we were established, but we have surpassed them in terms of size and revenue. And I'm like, it really is. We were the perfect balance where I was pushing and then he was pulling in the rein when needed. And even today, we had a meeting and it was a push and pull, but we know enough to know, okay, we'll come to the middle ground. Sometimes I will give him the grace to say, you know what? Like this year, we said no additional projects within the business. We're going to really focus and refine what we already have. And that's our focus for 2026.
Mhm.
And it took him a couple meetings to convince me, but I'm like, you know what? You're right. There's so much opportunity still within what we currently do, but there's so much more I want to do, as you said, like the AI
Mhm.
expansion. One of our future goals is, expansion into the US. So there's so much we want to do, but we got to make sure we fortify what we have first before we make those moves. So he kind of, I'm the visionary, but he's the realist, and we meet in the middle.
That's awesome. So you gotta build that really strong foundation, otherwise
Yeah,
those cracks will show immediately. So
exactly,
it's
exactly.
good to be able to focus on that, and it's interesting. So, obviously, I'm in Chicago, so we're in the US, our healthcare system is, interesting, and that could be for a whole whole 'nother episode, but, yes. But
A lot to
what
learn.
are
It's
you?
not something you can just jump right into. So,
Oh gosh, I imagine it's very different country to country. So
yes.
I'm curious though, what are some of the trends you're seeing in healthcare? Because like for us, for example, owning a private practice is becoming less and less normal. These
Oh, wow.
venture capitalists or
There.
hospitals are buying out the private
Mm-hmm.
practices.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, we've been approached by them before, and my husband is very much of the mindset of I want to take care of my patients the way that I want to take care of them, and
Yeah.
which I love because that's his true passion.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what are you seeing in this field?
Yeah. So, again, within healthcare in Canada, the government it's highly regulated, and the government does have a lot of involvement. For example, nurse practitioners, though they've been utilized in the states for many years and decades, actually, this is something new within the last 20 years in Canada. And so, we just in the province of Ontario, they're just now allowed to start billing the public system. So it's called OHIP. And within that, you cannot just say you're going to go open a clinic. You have to actually go through the government body that regulates it and get the approval and whatever it may be. So it is very much different, but I know on the private side, so I know there for like dentistry, there's a lot of dentists saying yes, same thing. Private equities coming in and trying to consolidate, and it is happening. A lot of the optometrists have said that as well. So it's similar trend, but there's some things that are regulated that it's not so simple for private equity to come in and just buy a clinic or whatever it may be.
Got it.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Hmm.
So what are some of the things that you're hoping for in the future within your business or in general if you guys are starting another something else? Where do you see
Yes.
yourself going in the next, 5 years or so?
It's just as you said, we're trying to integrate AI into our practice. Especially, we have lots of high call volumes, and I think it would be a great way, even if it's just the to be the receptionist, so we don't have any missed calls. So we have different targets we want to meet, and I think AI is going to help us get to the next level in terms of quality standards and customer service within our agency.
Yeah, there's so much out there. It could be a little overwhelming of like, where do we begin?
That's
Which
what it.
avenue are we going down here? I've like a no joke. We sat at the table when we just implemented this much more AI system at our
Hmm.
practice.
Yeah.
I think he sat down for 2 hours testing different voices for the answering machine. I don't know if it's still called an answering machine. It was like a country guy, and then it was like a British girl. I'm like, what are you doing?
What did you land on? Did you just land on a neutral accent?
Not the country guy. We're in Chicago. I'm like, they're gonna be like, where did I just
Where
call?
is this? That's funny. Yeah.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's been wonderful talking to you. I think you're
Thank
my first
you.
guest that's out of the country. So this is
Oh.
cool. So one thing I like to leave listeners with at the end of every episode is I
Mhm.
ask you, what is the one thing that you would tell listeners to do today that can improve their lives or their business?
Um, One thing I would say, and it goes beyond business, and I always say, if you have a gut instinct and you know you want to achieve something or set a certain goal, set a certain target, do it. Sometimes you have a little voice in your head, the fear in your mind saying, it's not the time, it's not the place. But if you have that gut instinct, like, I want to try this, I want to do it, 100% do it. And it may not be the huge, you're not going for the whole pie. You can do one thing. So even if you're like, oh, I want to start my own business, or if I want to say I want to implement AI, I'm taking a course through Harvard online on AI integration. And that's just one step closer. And even just watching a podcast with a business owner or picking up a book or doing the littlest thing to get you one step closer to your goal, that's what it's all about.
I love that. It's like, listen to that inner voice. It's telling
Yeah.
you that it's telling it for a reason.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. Well, it's been so great talking to you. I really hope we keep in touch because you're got such a fun, bubbly personality, and I'm excited to see, where
I
you take your
enjoyed this.
company.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Nothing Small About Business. Make sure you follow the show so you don't miss the value in upcoming episodes. Share this with someone who's growing. and connect on socials for more.